Black people, we have a lot of questions unanswered. And in this video, I'm going to shock you with what has happened to our great-great-grandfathers and sisters who were taken to Argentina as slaves. If we, the black people, ever learned anything or understood how the world has treated us over the years, we would be more concerned about building our own continent and staying right here than looking for visas to overseas. This country, Argentina, that you love and support in football, has done more damage to our forefathers than many of the European countries. And I'm going to break it down and prove it to you every step of the way. Make sure to fact check me if you doubt. And also make sure to subscribe and click on the bell to see all of my videos. Let's get into it. Argentina is not an innocent country, ladies and gentlemen. Argentina has many unanswered questions about what happened to the black slaves from the western coast of Africa who were sent there. You see, from the 16th to the 19th century, tens of thousands of black African slaves were brought to Argentina, mostly through the port of Buenos Aires. I'm talking about some 300 years ago, and I need you to understand in the simplest way, ladies and gentlemen. These enslaved Africans were brought in to work as domestic workers, work on the farms, work in the military, and in the construction and labor industries. They pretty much did so much work in the building of Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina, at no charges. Their numbers grew over time, and at one point in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, up to 1/3 of Buenos Aires' population was of African descent. I mean, about 200 to 300 years ago in Argentina, every one person out of 3 people in Buenos Aires was a black person. But today in 2025, approximately less than 2% of the population in Buenos Aires identify as black. From 30% some 200 plus years ago to now less than 2%. What happened? Where did the black people who built Buenos Aires disappear to? Argentina, what did you do with them? Ladies and gentlemen, this is what my research work got me. And like I said earlier, you have to fact check me if you doubt. But when you find me credible, you have to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Now, 2 major initiatives happened in Argentina that significantly reduced the population of the black slaves at the time. Number 1, from 1810 to 1818, the Argentinians went into a war with Spain for their independence. It was called the Argentinian Independence War. And guess who the leadership of Argentina drafted to fight in that war? Ladies and gentlemen, they drafted all the black slaves, particularly the black male slaves. The war went on for about 6 years straight. And in that time, most of the male black slaves were at the forefront of the war, and they died. It was mandatory for all black male slaves to fight in this war. Tens of thousands of them died fighting for Argentina. The very freedom the people of Argentina have today was given them through the shed blood of our ancestors. But the Argentinians never talk about it. They never show it in any of their independence stories, ladies and gentlemen. They just erased it. Then right after that war was the Paraguayan War from 1864 to 1870. Argentina joined forces with its allies, Brazil and Uruguay, to fight off the Paraguay country from its ambition to take over navigation routes and territories. Here again, the remnants of black slaves were put at the forefront, and thousands died in that war. These 2 incidents were the first initiative by the Argentinian leadership at the time that drastically reduced the population of the black slaves in Buenos Aires. It was a deliberate attempt by the Argentinian government to naturally exterminate the black race from their newly independent Argentinian society. Then after building Buenos Aires, after the black people fighting and building Buenos Aires in the wars for the sovereignty of Argentina, the worst thing ever happened to them. The now independent country of Argentina in the late 19th to early 20th century embraced a white European identity as their national identity. They simply pulled out an eraser and wiped out the black identity as an identifier in the new Argentina society. Ladies and gentlemen, in the 1887 census of Argentina, they excluded black from the options as an identifier. It was only white and other colors. And at this time, the population of the black people were less than 2%. They chose to forget the contribution of the black people. Their immigration policies instead favored Europeans like Italians, Spanish, and Germans. They had forgotten about the existence of the black people, similar to what the Americans did to the black people after their Civil War. They slave you, they abuse you, and then they dump you. And so from 1887 onwards, you could not identify as black even if you were one. This is why we don't see any black people in their politics and in their entertainment industry nor in their football team. They kept disappearing till this day. Where did they all go, ladies and gentlemen? They died in wars for Argentina. As it is now, the only event that recognizes the history and contribution of black people in Argentina is the El Dia de los Afro-Argentinos, which happens on November 8th every year. Again, similar to how America has a Black History Month. Buenos Aires, in a space of 50 years, moved from 30% black population to less than 2%. By 1853, when slavery was completely abolished in Argentina, most of the black men were already dead. And so the black women married white Argentinians, and that's how the black race over time got whitened. They went in black and came out white. The few known black soldiers who were recognized as heroes in the wars were Maria Remedios del Val, who was a nurse. She was wounded, captured, and tortured by Spanish forces severally, but kept returning to the battlefield, ladies and gentlemen. The truth is this: after Argentina's independence, she was left in poverty and had to petition Congress to recognize her service to the nation. Does this story sound similar, ladies and gentlemen? The other soldier is Pedro Pablo Morales, who was a sergeant major. Antonio Ruiz is another recognized black soldier who was executed in 1824 as a prisoner of war for refusing to raise the flag of the Spanish people. And finally, Colonel Jose Maria Morales. They fought and laid down their lives for the freedom of Argentina. The rest of the black men, ladies and gentlemen, who still found it difficult to survive in Argentina, had to leave to Brazil and other parts of Southern America. They weren't appreciated. This is the story behind why you don't see black faces in Argentinian events. For some people, they didn't even know black slaves were once upon a time a vibrant race in Argentina. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot change history, but we can make one. The black race has proven to be a builder and a fighter, whether as slaves or free men. We have to use that ability to build and fight for ourselves at this point. We have a continent to build, and we have the resources needed, ladies and gentlemen. What we need is people who love this land and its people. We need such patriots to fill in positions and lead the way. Our story has been truncated in the last 400 years. We were captured, dispersed, abused over that period, but now a new generation is coming. This generation will build Africa. The old generation must make room for the new, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need a Paul Biya sitting as president over the years for 40 years plus. We don't need that. Alhassan Ouattara as president for 15 years and Museveni as president for 40 years. We don't need that. They've served their purpose. They must leave the scene for fresh ideas. There are smart and patriotic young Africans who have ideas that can transform this continent. Don't waste their time. I tell you, don't waste their time. You are just occupying spaces. Make way. The revolution has started, and we need all hands on deck. This is Africa's time to shine, ladies and gentlemen. And to all black people from any corner of the world, you are from here. You are needed here. You are loved here. If Argentina doesn't want you, we have space for you right here. Wherever you live in the world, where they belittle you and stereotype you and abuse you for the color of your skin, maybe it's a sign for you to return home. Start that journey from today. Do your research and book that flight. Start from Ghana, because this is where you were actually exited. Ladies and gentlemen, you are always welcome home, and I invite you to come back home. God bless Africa and keep the fire alive. Be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell if you haven't. I'll see you in the next one. It is bye-bye for now.